Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about Albert Camus. He won the Nobel Prize in 1957 and in his acceptance speech he talked about the responsibilities of an artist in the world where tyrants were bombing innocent people. Algerian war was still going on at the time, and since Camus was Algerian by birth, he was constantly asked about the role of the French state in it. He was invited a couple of days later, after winning the Nobel Prize, to the University of Uppsala in Sweden to deliver a speech. In it, he continued the message he had briefly given during his acceptance speech, while also answering the question regarding the oppressors in war. Reading through this speech is necessary in today's world when regional wars have taken a turn for the worse. Meanwhile, everyone waits for a greater catastrophe to begin. What should an artist do at this moment? And what should a reader do at this moment? Here's Camus' response. From the beginning of the speech, which he entitled Create Dangerously, he alerted the audience and the world that the world has changed and our behavior must also change. He says, until the present moment, remaining aloof has always been possible in history. When someone did not approve, he could always keep silent or talk of something else. Today, everything is changed, and even silence has dangerous implications. The Second World War had upended human dignity. It had infused political rhetoric with decades of derogatory speeches which began during the First World War, in fact, a bit before that, and now it was a symbol of affirmation even to remain silent, even though silence was imposed through force. The age of participation was back. The artist could not remain silent because his silence would carry a message that either he is silent because he is afraid, which is unacceptable for an artist, or he approves of the tyranny gaslighting the public with false propaganda. It is a graver sin to know and not to speak, and it rarely happens that the artist does not know. The era of disengaged philosophizing was over. The era of romanticizing was also over. Camus proclaims, it is better in my opinion to give the era its due, since it demands this so vigorously, and calmly admit that the period of the revered master, of the artist with the camellia in his buttonhole, of the armchair genius is over. To create today is to create dangerously. It is a daring demand, but he has not yet convinced us what exactly is the difference between our age and previous centuries. What is it exactly that should pull us from the couch and shout at the dictators? He replies, the doubt felt by the artists who preceded us concerned their own talent. The doubt felt by artists of today concerns the necessity of their art, hence their very existence. According to him, the politicians and world leaders have instilled doubt in the artist's heart regarding the utility of art. We do not wonder about the discouraged rhetoric regarding humanities, especially fine art and literature. Why is it considered something to be avoided? Why is it considered to be not economically sustainable? Whatever excuses these people give, remember at the core of it, they are nothing but afraid of books. Because as Camus says, they are created dangerously. He goes on to explain furthermore the process that has efficiently achieved this illusory sway over the public. He says, for about a century we have been living in a society that is not even the society of money. Gold can arouse carnal passions, but that of the abstract symbols of money. The society of merchants can be defined as a society in which things disappear in favor of science. A society founded on science is, in its essence, an artificial society, in which man's carnal truth is handled as something artificial. Everything is symbolic in a capitalist age. Hardly anyone has seen a million in real cash, but the figures on our bank application in our phones are symbols of that stash of cash. In the same way, the artificiality of art is imposed upon the public with the purpose of silencing them and demotivating them into pursuing any artistic endeavor. Because just like a stash of money, which should be the dearest thing to a modern man, and now became a symbol, a novel like War and Peace is now nothing but a classic symbol. No need to read it. Unfortunately, as a global community, we have realized Mark Twain's joke. A classic is a book that everyone talks about, but no one reads. staying away from literature, true literature, and replacing it with cheap romances and thrillers that numb the mind with hyperinflated emotions and flying brooms is a capitalist weapon to keep us sleeping. A bestseller novel is as worse as best it sells. Camus concludes after highlighting these facts that it is obvious why we have more journalists than creative writers, more Boy Scouts of painting than Cézannes, and why sentimental tales or detective novels have taken the place of War and Peace or the Charterhouse of Parma. Read cheap literature, but don't come near dangerous literature, true literature, authentic literature. Read the stuff about detective novels, the writers that talk about flying brooms. Don't come near Tolstoy or Balzac, they are too difficult to read. One justification given for this lumbering read is that art is for art's sake, art is not for politics' sake, or in fact for any other sake. Camus is furious at this justification. He clarifies the theory of art for art's sake, which is verily a voicing of that irresponsibility, art for art's sake. The entertainment of a solitary artist is indeed the artificial art of a factitious and self-absorbed society. The logical result of such a theory is the art of little cliques or the purely formal art fed on affectations and abstractions and ending in the destruction of all reality. It is a well-formed, well-thought-out theory to keep the reader distant from the reality on ground. An artist paints a shoe on the canvas, or perhaps might stick some shoes on it, pure and simple in the privacy of his room, and hang it in a gallery where a handful of people would admire it. And perhaps one of them might even choose to buy it and make it a property of his own drawing room. And that is it. Art for art's sake is a perfect recipe for a capitalist artist and a wealthy bourgeois buyer. It completes the cycle of demand and supply with millions running from one pocket to the other, while a thousandth fraction of it, if passed over to a poor family, could feed it for an entire year. In today's world, true artists are unknown artists, Banksy being one of them. There is no art that is out of touch with reality. Camus insists upon the same point thus. An artist cut off from his society, he will create nothing but formal or abstract works, thrilling as experiences but devoid of the fecundity we associate with true art, which is called upon to unite. In short, there will be as much difference between the contemporary subtleties or abstractions in the works of a Tolstoy or a Molière as between an anticipatory draft on invisible wheat and the rich soil of the furrow itself. Enough of criticism, Camus. Yes, no one knows how to write, then tell us how to write. He does provide his standard, he advises. In order to speak about all and to all, one has to speak of what all know and of the reality common to us all. The sea, rains, necessity, desire, the struggle against death, these are the things that unite us all. We resemble one another in what we see together, in what we suffer together. Dreams change from individual to individual, but the reality of the world is common to us all. Striving toward realism is therefore legitimate, for it is basically related to the artistic adventure. Keep in touch with what others feel. Writing and art in general is born out of empathy. It is born out of suffering with others. It is born out of pain and struggle of the working class. It is born out of tons of bombs being dropped on innocent people, families destroyed, children killed, millions starving. An artist stands with the oppressed. Beauty is as inspiring as suffering, but art has to keep true to reality. Because as Camus claims, so it is with art, which is nothing without reality, and without which reality is insignificant. Truth does not bring renown. If you want renown, there is an easy way to get it. Camus explains, renown which in bourgeois society consisted in not being read or in being misunderstood, will in a totalitarian society consist in keeping others from being read. Once more, true art will be distorted or gagged, and universal communication will be made impossible by the very people who most passionately wanted it. If we want to keep our hands clean from the blood of the tyrant's hands, we ought to read, read, and read. An artist today can only create dangerously, but for those who do not count themselves as artists, they should remember that not reading nowadays is a crime greater than committing a murder. Thank you, everyone.